This evening, detectives have found, very sadly, what appears to be human remains.
One of my detective sergeants came running into the office and said, "We need to shut the door. You need to hear this."
What stage would Sarah have realised something was wrong? It's really sad to think that she's that quite scary situation that she's in at that point.
Last night there were dramatic developments when the Metropolitan Police announced one of its own serving officers was being questioned about her disappearance.
The disappearance and slaying. Sarah Everard was more than just a name in the headlines. She was a vibrant young woman with dreams and aspirations. Born in Surrey in 1987, she spent her formative years in York attending Fulford School. But it was at St. Cuthbert Society, Durham University, where she truly came into her own, studying human geography from 2005 to 2008. With a zest for life and a passion for her field, Sarah embarked on her journey into adulthood, landing in the bustling Brixton Hill area of London. A marketing executive for a digital media agency, Sarah was carving out a promising career for herself. But beyond her professional pursuits, she was described as kind-hearted, dependable, and thoughtful. Her warm smile and caring nature left an unforgettable mark on those fortunate enough to know her. However, Sarah's promising future was tragically cut short on the fateful evening of the 3rd of March 2021.
Whilst Nick and his team were running on blue lights to get some control over the address, one of my detective sergeants came running into the office and said, "We need to shut the door. You need to hear this."
As she walked home from a friend's house near Clapham Common, she encountered a man who would forever alter the course of her life. Wayne Couzens. Off-duty Metropolitan Police Constable Wayne Couzens, entrusted with upholding the law, instead became the perpetrator of a heinous crime. Identifying himself as a police officer, he lured Sarah into his clutches under false pretenses. Handcuffing her and placing her in his car, he callously transported her to Dover, where he committed unspeakable acts of violence against her.
He then put one of our researchers on speakerphone, and she said, "He's a police officer. He's a serving officer in the Met. He currently works for the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Group."
In the dark of night, away from prying eyes, Couzens subjected Sarah to unimaginable horrors. He physically exploited and strangled her before callously disposing of her body, burning it and dumping her remains in a pond in the secluded woodland of Hodeswood near Ashford, Kent.
She would have gone on the South Circular. It's a natural route back to Brixton, but we're keeping an open mind. That is the last sighting of Sarah. We're obviously also looking into CCTV and exploring that side of things as well.
The discovery of Sarah Everard's remains sent shockwaves across the nation. As the news reverberated, an intensive investigation unfolded, led by determined law enforcement officials committed to bringing her slayer to justice. With meticulous attention to detail, detectives combed through evidence, retracing Sarah's final moments and piecing together the chilling puzzle of her abduction and slaying. Their efforts culminated in the apprehension of Wayne Couzens, the very man entrusted with protecting the public he had ruthlessly preyed upon. Wayne Couzens, the perpetrator, the man behind the badge.
I knew that I had to tell my boss, and I can just remember the shock of having to just sit on the floor of the office and say to her, "You're not going to believe this, that he's a police officer." And then the same questions went through her head as went through my head. "Are you sure?"
Wayne Couzens, born on December 20th, 1972 in Dover, Kent, had a background seemingly typical of many. Educated at Castlemount School, he initially pursued a career as a mechanic in his family's garage after completing his GCSEs. However, his aspirations soon shifted towards law enforcement. Couzens enlisted as a private with the Territorial Army in 2002, before transitioning to a role as a special constable with Kent Police in 2006. Despite a promising start, Couzens' career trajectory took a darker turn with subsequent dismissals and transfers. He joined the Metropolitan Police in 2018, serving as a constable and firearms officer before being assigned to the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Branch in 2020.
Without a significant overhaul, there is nothing to stop another wing Couzens operating in plain sight.
I was advised that Metropolitan Police representative, that even if they had been aware of the information that was now available, they would have appointed him in any event. And as I said earlier, I just found that an astonishing proposition.
On the evening of March 3rd, 2021, Couzens committed a heinous act that would shock the nation. Using his position of authority, he stopped 33-year-old Sarah Everard as she walked home, falsely claiming to arrest her for breaching COVID guidelines. Handcuffing her and showing her his police warrant card, he then drove her to Dover, where he subjected her to unimaginable acts of violence, including physical exploitation and strangulation. Despite initially denying any involvement, Couzens' guilt was undeniable. On June 8, 2021, he pleaded guilty to the kidnapping and physical exploitation of Sarah Everard. Subsequently, on July 9th, he admitted to her slaying.
Now, we believe that you know something about where she is, and that's why we're here, to look for her and to try and find her. And that's why we're talking to you now, is to try and get you to have a good think about it. And, tell us anything you can about where we might be able to find her.
His guilty pleas spared the need for a trial, but they could not erase the pain and anguish he inflicted upon Sarah's loved ones. Timeline of events. From disappearance to arrest, March 3rd, 2021. The disappearance. In the evening, 33-year-old Sarah Everard disappears while walking home from a friend's house in Clapham, South London, to Brixton Hill.
As a man, you think it's the most safest route to come home. It's well lit with street lighting and plenty of properties around. So yes, I think that's the route that she would have taken in every time she went to see her friend.
She is last seen on Leithwaite Road near Clapham Junction. March 6th, investigation initiated. Metropolitan Police issue an appeal over Everard's disappearance and release CCTV images. She is believed to have walked through Clapham Common on her way home. March 9th, initial arrests. Police arrest Wayne Couzens, a serving Metropolitan Police constable in Deal, Kent, on suspicion of kidnapping. Around 40 minutes before his arrest, Couzens attempts to wipe data from his mobile phone. March 10th, grim discovery. Human remains are discovered in woodland near Ashford, Kent. Metropolitan Police confirm that Everard's body has been found. Couzens is rearrested on suspicion of slaying. March 11th, suspect hospitalized. Couzens is hospitalized for a head injury sustained in custody. Independent Office for Police Conduct launches an investigation into the handling of the case. March 12th, charges laid. Couzens is charged with Everard's kidnapping and slaying following authorization from the Crown Prosecution Service. He appears at Westminster Magistrates Court and is remanded in custody.
We are today handing down our written judgment in cases concerning the sentences of 4 offenders convicted of murder and 1 of manslaughter. The second concerns Wayne Couzens, who pleaded guilty to kidnap and rape of Sarah Everard, and later he pleaded guilty to her murder. On the 30th of September 2021, he was sentenced to imprisonment for life for the murder with a whole life order.
March 12th and 13th, further developments. Couzens' wife is arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender, but later released without charge. Police confirm Couzens was not on duty at the time of Everard's disappearance. March 16th, court appearance. Couzens makes his first appearance at the Old Bailey via video link from Belmarsh Prison. Plea hearing set for July 9th with a provisional trial date for October 25th, July 9th, guilty plea. Couzens pleads guilty to the kidnap, physical exploitation and slaying of Sarah Everard via video link from HMP Belmarsh. Reports surface of Couzens' previous indecent exposure incidents. September 29th to 30th, sentencing. Sentencing hearing begins at the Old Bailey before Lord Justice Fulford. Couzens receives a life sentence with a whole life order on September 30th, ensuring he will never be released from prison. The aftermath. Following Wayne Couzens' admission of guilt to the heinous crimes of slaying, kidnapping, and physical exploitation, the Metropolitan Police faced intense scrutiny over potential oversights that may have allowed his predatory behavior to persist unchecked. Despite his dismissal from the force, questions lingered regarding whether opportunities were missed to intervene and prevent the tragic outcome of Sarah Everard's abduction and slaying. In the aftermath of Miss Everard's tragic demise, Independent Office for Police Conduct launched investigations into allegations of the Metropolitan Police's failure to thoroughly investigate 2 incidents of indecent exposure involving Couzens in February. Additionally, Kent Police face scrutiny over their handling of a flashing incident involving Couzens dating back to 2015. Couzens' career trajectory within law enforcement, from his transfer to the Met in 2018 to his role as an authorized firearms officer in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command, raised further questions about the adequacy of vetting processes and supervision within the force. During his sentencing hearing, which unfolded over 2 days, Couzens faced the anguish and grief of Miss Everard's family firsthand. Her father, Jeremy, expressed his unforgiving stance towards the perpetrator, demanding that Couzens look him in the eye as he confronted him. Her mother, Susan, said she was tormented at the thought of what her precious little girl had endured. "I go through the sequence of events. I wonder when she realized she was in mortal danger," she told the court. "Burning her body was the final insult. It meant we could never again see her sweet face and never say goodbye. Our lives will never be the same. We should be a family of 5, but now we are 4. Her demise leaves a yawning chasm in our lives that cannot be filled," she said.
That we all feel about what happened to Sarah. I am so sorry.